Sorry about that.
Oh, no.
So we ready?
Yep.
Sorry for the delay. My computer decided to update itself, sort of like Garfield the cat last minute. All right, I'll call this regular meeting of the Bethel Public Utilities Commission to order for Monday, July 19th, 2021. Paul, you got your flag ready?
Ready.
All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Kathy, do we have any members of the public on tonight?
No.
All right, so we'll go on and I assume there's no late breaking correspondence, correct? All right, we'll skip that. So first order of business then is acceptance of the meeting minutes from June 21st. I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Paul, seconded by Rich. Are there any corrections or comments pertaining to those?
Not that I could find any.
I know you're usually the ones that catches anything, so. All right, then hearing none, I'll try your minds. Those in favor of accepting those minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Hey,
Okay, Dino abstains,
oh,
and that motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to financials. Number one, financial report. Brad, I think you're covering for Bob today, correct?
Yeah, so Bob sent out the financial report. There was one thing in it that Tom caught that we should make note of. On the operator salary for both water and sewer, the amount that Bob put in the report included the overtime and longevity. So for water, the line that says operator salaries should really be $215,640 instead of $248,995.
Are we just doing the monthly here, or are you doing a budget?
This is the monthly financials.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So
That's on page 2 of the report at this point for
I
water.
see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that, again, that number should be 215,640 instead of 248. And then for sewer, which was page 9, same thing happened. It included the overtime and longevity. So it should be 143,761. This report is as of June 30th. Because the year end is not closed for 3 to 6 months, depending on the auditors. These numbers are subject to change until we have final numbers from the auditors.
All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is in regard to the notes that Bob put on the bottom of page 2, Greenwood Avenue issue. I see we spent $133,441. The question is, did any of our insurance cover that? I'm assuming this is under the railroad track.
I don't believe it did. I think they were compiling information to file as a report. Tom, do you know more about that?
No, I haven't seen anything that might have been put together for that. Typically, that's usually not something that's covered, but I haven't heard any more.
Yeah, we did have a meeting with our insurance carrier when it came up to all the work that was done for the sinkhole, in case Metro North went after us for it. And they said typically that's not covered because they almost view it as like wear and tear. But obviously we'll have to look into that more, especially if we get huge bills from Metro North on it.
And I've gotten nothing to date.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we should follow up on because, it's not, I don't know whose fault it is, but it wasn't intentional, that's for sure. And it's a sort of an act of nature too.
Okay.
Here's something we don't even know. It could be years of vibration and pounding by the train itself. It could be that
Yeah.
the trains caused the leak to happen.
Actually, we could counter sue and claim that.
All right, but we'll check into that, Paul. Good point about that.
Okay. Good, thank you.
All right, any other questions on water? Brad, did you want to touch on sewer?
I mentioned that sewer had the same issue with salaries.
Yeah,
But other than that, Bob's note at the bottom says all expenses appear to be in order. So I think everything else looks okay. And again, the same thing, we won't have the final numbers until really December is when the audit's done, but we should have a much better idea at the end of September.
yeah. All right,
But Brad, let me just say, the water department and sewer departments are substantially in pretty good shape if I'm looking at the surpluses through June 30th.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, the only thing, Paul, that we're really waiting on at this point is we're still gonna get some bills. So usually you're still getting bills through July and August.
Yeah.
You know, there might be a couple of big ones out there. I don't know what projects are still out there, Tom, that they haven't billed for. But I think you guys are usually pretty on that.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about anything too large of an impact. That's still to come, but like you said, there may be something that comes in. We're kind of up to date with contractors, so I'm not expecting anything big.
That's good.
We will owe retainages throughout the project. We had to hold retainage, so that usually gets paid like the year after. So that'll be something that's going to go out of pocket in the coming year. But there's also some reimbursement that we're going to get from the state as well. So I've kind of accounted for both of those in the budget.
all right. So if no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the financial report. Motion by Paul, second by Rich. Any further discussion? And hearing none, those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 And that motion carries. Moving on to number 2, invoices. So to start the discussion, I'll put a motion on the floor to approve invoices for PUC approval dated July 19, 2021, 4 items in the total amount of $38,950.31. Is there a second? Second by Rich. Okay, floor is open if you guys want to look through those. So we have 1 Weston and Sampson and 3 Wright Pierce. Marty, you didn't bill us anything this month?
Pro bono in a month.
No, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna screw up Brad's final report for the year.
I already got yelled at by Marty, guys. Let's leave.
All right.
Marty thought we weren't gonna pay him. We'll pay you, Marty. Yeah.
Isn't July pro bono month?
I'll let payroll know, Paul, that you're working pro bono this month.
Oh, good, thank you.
It works both ways, Paul.
Be careful what you wish for, right?
All right. Any questions on those invoices?
No,
All right. Hearing none then, those in favor of approving these, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. Moving on to, see, there's no new business on the agenda today, so we'll go to the director's report. Tom, floor is yours.
All right, before I get into capital projects, which is under old business, just a couple of items under director's report. Just for information, we had our sanitary survey inspection with the state health department. That's due every 3 years. This year, due to COVID, they were still doing their thing remotely. So we had a FaceTime call with staff and answered any questions, submitted any reports that they were looking for up front. So at this point, I should be getting some kind of a final report from the state here, I would imagine in the next couple of months with any comments they have, but it seemed like it went pretty well the day we did that. And then the only other item was I prepared a risk and resilience plan that was required for our utility to be, we had a certified EPA that we prepared one. And part of that now requires us to update our emergency response plan. So that's something I'll be looking at and is due by the end of December. So I'll probably work a little bit with Tom Galliford, our emergency management personnel from the town, and update basically the plan that we have in place already with our water supply plan. And that was it.
Okay, any questions for Tom?
No,
Okay, well, you know what? Why don't, Tom, why don't you go into old business and do the capital project summary, then we'll save the last item for the water and sewer budgets.
Sure. All right, for capital projects, our sanitary sewer rehab. The contractor mobilized, they completed their root treatments, and they've also CCTV'd the lines that they need to line and clean those as well. So they're prepping for their liner work, which should, I imagine, they got to get that material ordered and then organized. So they should be back in town, I would think, in the next couple of weeks to at least start some of that work. For the tank project, it's basically complete. There was a couple of final electrical related punch list items that the contractor addressed, and now we're done with that project at this point. On the Bergstrom well, design is continuing. They're at about the 30% design stage. There was some additional boring work that was done on site, and Wright Pierce will continue on the design of that project. No surprises at this point. On the 2019 water mains that we basically just finished, the last item was the mill and overlay of Route 53, and the contractor completed that about 2 weeks ago, and that was the last item that he needed to work on. So we're just about wrapping that project up now too. For our new water mains, the 2021 water mains, the contractor started some saw cutting on School Street. He informed me that there's a backup for pipe deliveries. Looks like he's not getting his first delivery till August 8th. And that's not even going to be his complete order. So it seems like supply chain issues are kind of impacting this a little bit. I'll have more information as we go further. But like I say, he's expecting his first delivery August 8th, and I expect we'll get going with main installations, that week. And lastly, the generator projects, final paperwork was submitted to the state, and I submitted our request for payment, which we should be seeing in the month of August. And if there's any questions, I'll go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Rich, go ahead. Oh, Rich, you're breaking up. Rich, we totally lost your audio, if you can hear me.
Was there any more broken pipes found when they did the cammering?
No, they haven't reported anything else. In fact, one thing that they did look at, there was going to be one open cut repair, and which their bid item on that was about $15,000. And it looks like they'll be able to do a short liner on that, do that repair with a short liner as opposed to an open cut. And that may net out at about a $4,000 item as opposed to a $15,000. So that was a good thing. It was also in a tricky spot. It was up on Whittlesea where Eversource has some of their electrical, their high voltage underground. So if we can stay away from that, the better.
Okay. Now how about the generator at the pumping station on Paul Street?
We met with and Kelly may have had this on his list, but we met with the electrical contractor who's going to do the generator install. We've authorized them on the generator, but we wanted to get a quote on replacing the automatic transfer switch like we discussed. So he came back and did a little bit more evaluation of what's there. We did have a quote from him, but now his original quote, in the way he was going to do it, included a longer shutdown than we can allow him to do based on the amount of flow that comes into that station. So he's working on an alternative way to do it, and I'm waiting on his quote for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, any further questions on the capital projects?
No.
And hearing none, so we'll go back to fiscal year 21-22 water and sewer budget. So let's start with the water department budget. So just to make it formal and put it on the floor, I'll make a motion that we
Well,
accept and approve the.
Matt, if I can interrupt,
Oh, yeah.
just to let you know, we did approve the budgets last meeting.
Oh, that's right. We did.
So
Right.
I had it back on the agenda because we were requested to unbundle, if you will,
Right,
all the
right,
salary information.
right.
So really, I wanted to have this revised to show that we've now backed out all the salary information the way we had it previously on both sewer and water. So
Okay.
we individualized like some of these salaries and we backed out the overtime and the longevity. And so we did that on both. And then we also were requested to add in 100,000 on the sewer side under capital to cover the transfer switch and one additional pump at Paul Street.
Okay, so we would need to approve the revised budget for sewer then, correct? Or did the bottom line not change?
The bottom line did not change. We
Okay.
approved it with that extra 100.
Okay,
So I wasn't sure how this should go on the agenda, so I did want to include it under old business. And I did want to submit the revised numbers, even though the
Okay.
bottom line comes out the same.
okay, well then essentially, so thanks for catching that. So essentially, this is just a budget, a report of the revised numbers that were requested, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I would then open the floor to the board. Are there any questions on those numbers?
No.
I think we discussed it in detail last time.
Yes. As
Yeah,
a
not-
courtesy, I just wanted to give you guys the revised, format.
Not that I remembered that we did that, but yes, we did. You're exactly right. All right. Well, if there's no further questions, before we adjourn, I do have one question for the board. Well, actually, before we get to the utility supervisor report, Kelly, I know you're with us, but I do have one question for the board. Starting in August, we're going to have the opportunity to transition back to in-person meetings if we want to. You may recall that if you followed the the General Assembly's legislative session this year, that there was a bill introduced that was passed that was called the Accessibility of Local Government, among other things. It had some other provisions in there pertaining to outdoor dining and so on. It was House Bill number 6448. But basically, this allows every board and commission in the state to choose how they want to move forward. So here are the choices. We've been meeting for the last 18 months by Zoom, fully remote. We can choose to continue with fully remote meetings. We can choose to do a in-person hybrid. And what that would entail would be that we as a board, or most of us, would be in the meeting room, probably meeting room A, the way we have been. But we would have to, under this provision, allow the public to log into a computer and interact with us via the equipment that's in the room. So you could use meeting room A or meeting room D for that. So that the provision in the law says the public must be allowed to speak at public input just the way they normally would. So it's basically a Zoom meeting with most of the board or all of the board in a room together and the public interfacing via technology. The third meeting type, of course, is just full in-person meeting, just like the old days. We would continue to record them as we had in the past for several years, but it would be in person with no electronic interface whatsoever. Don't have to decide today, but I would like to hear your thoughts on that, which way you want to proceed: remote, in person, or hybrid, combination of the three or the two. Yeah, Rich, go ahead.
I would like to see the hybrid. I'd like to meet in person and then have if anybody can't make it, can tune in, and the public, either can make it or tune in also.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
once a decision is made, is that like every year you review it, or?
This is authorized, it has a sunset date of April 30th, 2022. So it goes for almost a full year. And then the state may renew it, they may not. One of the provisions in that bill that passed was to have the ACIR, which is the Commission on Intergovernmental Relations. It's a big board it's got like 20 people on it, appointed by the governor. There's one of these, there's an ACIR at the federal level too. But what they do is they study interface between the government levels and the public. So this bill instructed them to, the ACIR panel, to get together with the Connecticut Association of Municipal Attorneys, or CAMA, and look at ways that we could make town meetings held remotely and find secure ways to handle voting and so on. They have a whole year to study that issue and come up with some recommendations. So whatever we decide now, we're not married to it. We could do hybrid for now. If there was a resurgence of the pandemic, we could go back to remote if that was necessary. We can change it at will. There are some new rules and regulations that go along with it, but that's basically on my end to work out in terms of notification and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a general consensus that we want to have hybrid meetings where we're in a room and we can have the public Zoom in?
Yeah, I think Rich was right. I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, I think that's a good move, because we really, as long as we have the flexibility to go back, because we don't know how this COVID, especially with these derivatives that are coming out, we may go, hopefully we don't go back to masking, but it's always a possibility.
Well, you might be interested to know, I just got a headline across my phone, my Wall Street Journal notifier. Wall Street closed today with the worst day since May, and it's directly related to the what they call the fast-spreading Delta variant.
Right.
And the states where this is really the worst is the states with the lowest vaccination rates. In Connecticut right now, 98% of the people who are hospitalized are unvaccinated. So you're basically, I think the CDC put out I think it was the Deborah Birx, I think, put out a quote that said it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. But it's definitely a public health threat, and it could come back if these people don't get their heads screwed back on straight.
Yeah.
So, all right, so for the next meeting, we'll work toward, I suspect that most of our boards and commissions are going to choose the hybrid. I would like to have been able to just kind of dictate so we have one policy across the whole town. But unfortunately, the governor's council disagreed about that and said that all the elected boards can choose on their own. But we'll recommend that hybrid is probably the most transparent way to go with the public. So with that, we'll go on to the last item. Kelly, you're up for the utilities report, supervisor's report.
I got a couple things going on. We did get the truck order the day after our last meeting. Have no idea when it's going to come in. I think Ford is the one waiting on the chip that, I don't know what for the transmission of the motor, but I think that's going to be held up. But that order was placed, and they'll keep us in the loop as to what's going on. 2 days after the meeting, we fixed the leak at the middle school. It was just as I suspected. It was packing. They had that cut and put back in place. 2 days later, 22 Nashville Road had a service there. That was repaired. That 64 Hoyt Hill. I've still got a Nashville, I'm sorry, reservoir. I really think it's just groundwater coming off the mountain up in the back there. But I don't know. If the weather changes, maybe the water coming down the hill will change too. I've got a service leak on Oxford Street that has popped up again. and it's leaking in the same place. I got a letter to the homeowner regarding that to get that taken care of. We read meters this past week. That number we had we had a year ago of 1,500 non-reads is down to 549. So that's real good. And I think the majority are in the building. We're trying to get to all the ones on the outside because those are the easiest and the quickest to get. With the heavy rains off and on we've had for the past month, we've had no problem issues at any one of the stations. We did have a issue up at the tank, a tree go down at the new tank, in the area of the new tank. So we had a little bit of an issue there. So we decided to take our little tooth on ramp up there to make sure we could still communicate to South Street. And once we figured out how to do it and made a little SOP as to how to do it, we left it. We decided to leave that little generator up there, locked up in a job box. All right, out of 10, anything on a tree goes down, and there's no way we're going to carry this generator, quarter mile, half mile, whatever, to get into where that tank is. So we've left it there, and we can unplug the battery back up, plug in the generator, and we're good to go. So that was size of that. It was good we did it. So now we know that we won't lose communications between the two. Other than that, that's really all I've got. There's no change in the hydrants. I still have this, and we haven't had any time to really do anything with that pressure tank up at the Chestnut Ridge tank. Just so you know, I still have one employee out with workman's comp. I expect from what Phyllis is telling me, they're supposed to come back on light duty the middle of August. But until I see the letter from them, what they consider light duty, I really don't know what's happening with that. And of course, everybody, it's time of year for vacation. So we are short-handed, but we're getting things taken care of.
Okay,
Other
great.
than that, that's all.
Okay. Hey, Kelly, there's something going on with your audio. Like every 10 seconds, you fade out for a little bit, then you come back. It's happened like 8 or 9 times. So let me just ask
yeah.
the board, were you guys able to hear enough of Kelly's report?
Sporadically.
Yeah.
Enough to follow it.
What can I fill in the blanks with? I mean, just kind of run through them. You want to know the leaks? You want to know how we made out
Yeah.
with
There
the
you go.
generator, hooking it up to, it's up to you guys.
Hey, Kelly,
Yes?
what did you find at the middle school leak? You were breaking up and I didn't hear you on that
It
one.
was the packing on the stem. It was barely leaking for years, and I really thought it was nothing.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Kelly, what about flushing of hydrants since we had so much water
So
here?
that's why we finally went after it and cut that 4-inch valve out.
I don't think you heard me.
No, go ahead. Say it again, Paul.
What about flushing of hydrants? You've delayed it, especially up here on the hill.
All right, what didn't you catch, Pete, Paul?
No, he's asking about hydrant flushing, Kelly.
Hydrant flushings, I'm sorry. We still got an issue with
We're still having an issue with the
we're
community.
kind of getting ready to
Wells in the
move
tank.
on to another customer. Yeah, and we're just not doing it. We can't do it because we're overflowing enough water trying to get these tanks to work. We're not talking to each other to work automatically. But as soon as we can get it right and get the chlorine levels right, because that's the other issue, is the chlorine levels keep changing as the pumps ramp up and down. They should be doing it automatically. But I'm still planning on doing it on flushing, just like usual, once we get this situation straightened out.
Matt, we'll just discuss this at the next meeting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll be in person next time, so.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, Kelly, it's almost like there's a piece of equipment cycling on and off or something that's interfering with your Wi-Fi. It's like I timed it on my watch. Every 10 seconds, you cut out for a few seconds.
All right, my apologies.
Oh, it's not your fault. I just thought I'd let you know. All right, well, that concludes our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Rich. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Hey, Kath, can you stay on for a second or two? I got a question for you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, did you